Hey everybody, Scott here. This is a little extra, little bonus, little core piece of business. And I'm doing this remotely because two reasons. One, I wanted to test my new mic. And so far sounds good, I think. But also I wanted to have a moment to talk about this Microsoft news today. Quite the couple of weeks we're coming off of. Sony was in the spotlight for a couple of weeks straight. First with the stupid Stellar Blade nonsense. And that wasn't so much of a Sony problem as it was just a problem. But and not one I thought was worth all the flim-flam around it. But anyway, the big one today is that Microsoft has shuttered something like 5 studios. I think it's 4 or 5. I don't have it right in front of me. But it includes the Hi-Fi Rush developer. These are all things that are currently under the Bethesda banner. So the Hi-Fi Rush people, Arcane Austin, who did Redfall, and that was a terrible video game, but actually, honestly, that was the only one that kind of made sense to me. Because I'm like, well, it didn't really perform on the only game they had to make, and they weren't really helping the overall brand of Arcane. And so, since that thing tanked so hard, maybe we cut them loose. Like, for whatever reason, that didn't seem that crazy. But Hi-Fi Rush was a success, both creatively and financially. Microsoft and Phil Spencer made a big hullabaloo about how they were thrilled that a game like that could be made and do well. And it also just recently went multi-platform and showed up on PlayStation 5, one of the early crossover games to PS5, which is great for those guys. It's a very cool game. It won a bunch of awards and deserved all the love it got during that time. But, now they're getting shuttered. And I think also the Mighty Doom developer, they're a mobile developer. I forget the name of them, but they get bumped as well. Anyway, this all comes on the heels of other layoffs kind of across the industry, and they're not the only ones to be doing it. Certainly stuff from Sony and previously Activision Blizzard, which, is now technically owned by Microsoft. But people are really upset about this one, and I get it. I think they should be. It makes me think like, okay, well, with all the deep pockets at Microsoft and all these devs that they picked up, let's say, like Obsidian and for that matter, at the Activision Blizzard acquisition and all the little studios in between. I don't know how nervous they should be. If I were Microsoft, I would have figured out a way to keep the Hi-Fi Rush people. That seems like just the dumbest studio to cut. That's just, if they really want to foster creativity and new IPs and fantastic new game experiences, why would you shoot yourself in the foot on that one? That one boggles me a little bit. Sorry, I hope this mic isn't rubbing on me, so it's making a weird noise. I can't tell. Here, I'll put it like that. Then the other one is what was the other? I was making a point there. Oh, like I'm not saying, like, I understand the business, the entire industry is having a moment here of this sort of stuff. But there's also a lot of weird misappropriation of stuff, like players are like, well, hold on, you're just having this massive success with Fallout and on the TV series. How can you possibly be laying anyone off during that? They're not really connected. I mean, they kind of are, and they're more connected to a future Fallout franchise than they are anything else, or a future Fallout game. But the success of that isn't an indication of, sweet, now we'd never have to cut anything ever again. If anything, I think gamers are having to come to grips with this unpleasantness, which is, turns out the video game business is like any other business. As it scales, gets larger, has shareholders, and has massive expectations in the financial world. It's no longer just, oh, did you hear they shut down Iguana Entertainment and it's 5 employees or whatever it was back in the 90s? Anyway, moving on. Like we didn't care then, or we didn't throw giant fits then. When Acclaim went away, I mentioned Iguana when... who was the other one? There was the Salt Lake one. Maybe I'm thinking of Acclaim. Anyway, the bigger that business gets, the worse these sound because they're bigger, right? Bigger impact. Instead of 3-4 employees, you're talking about hundreds and sometimes thousands of employees. And instead of just 1 or 2 creative minds, you're potentially laying off a huge swath of creativity. Rainer, don't get up here. My dog's here. My sweetie. You can lay down there, okay? Or actually, why don't you come up over here? There you go. Anyway... and I'm a little I'm feeling very fatigued. Rainer, geez Louise, my dog is stupid. Lay down. There you go. Lay down. There's a little bit of fatigue, like controversy, scandal fatigue happening. And I'm trying not to let that color my view of stuff. Like we had a whole discussion on the last core. Come on, microphone, hold still. Apologize. We had a whole discussion on the last core episode about the thing with Helldivers. I forgot to mention that earlier. The Helldivers 2 mess and Sony's reversed position on it and all of that. It just, when there's one or two of these major scandals a week or things a week that seem massive and worth commentary, it can wear you out. It can make you tired. I'm trying not to let that sour my ability to be optimistic and also objective when it comes to these stories. But here is my overall take, which is why I'm recording this today. Like it or not, we as gamers are going to have to come to grips with the economic realities that are facing video games now. And what I mean by that is not a boutique industry anymore. It hasn't been for a very long time, but more than ever, it is a multi-billion, multinational thing. It's so big now. It's bigger than like on an annual basis, more revenue than film and TV combined or some crazy thing like that. Rainer, do not bark. Stop. Sit down. Anyway, it's bigger than ever, right? We have scaled to an enormous proportion. And not only that, it is also adherent to the things we're used to in big business. Like I mentioned, massive investment portfolios and publicly held companies and all the things that entails, like having to make every quarter's numbers look better than the last, no matter what, permanent, perpetual growth. And that's just part of that world. And now it's affecting this thing that we all love, right? We love gaming. Rainer, really? Lay down. Oh my gosh, you are so desperate today for love and attention. And I'll give it to you, don't worry. And so those financial worries or those financial realities include massive layoffs for what seems like no reason, or cutting creative talent, which seems crazy because the creative talent is the bread and butter for what you're making. And this may turn out, and I'm not saying it won't, but this may very well turn out to bite the entire industry in the butt so hard that they'll have to rethink the whole thing, because this isn't the kind of business where numbers are the only thing that matters. And that's true in film and television and books and everything else. If all you did was just go the cheapest route with the highest probability of profit, nobody would see movies because they would all suck, and who would care? You have to have room for the creative, passion projects to happen. And I think in gaming, maybe more than anything else, given that it's such a multimedia, I hate that word, but multimedia experience. It's storytelling, it's audio, it's visual, it's technical, it's, it's all those things. And I think maybe there'll have to be some sort of correction, but I don't have a lot of hope in that, because again, the business construct around it is no different than, trading commodities or, General Electric or Ford versus Chevy or whatever. They become, the bigger they become, the less human they become. And the less human they become, the less human experiences we get. So I have real concerns about the future of it all. But I just don't know if we should be this surprised given where we're at today. And that's not to excuse any of it. Not at all. There's very little you can do about it. The nice thing about the Helldivers 2 thing is enough people rattle enough cages for, loud enough for 2 days that it actually got the result people are looking for, which is Sony backing off on the policy. It still tarnishes them. It still makes people not trust them, but it's better than the other way, which was, hunkering down and being unmovable. And I think we have, as gamers, we have some, not control, but we have some sway in that regard. Clearly, we've used it a couple of times, and in that case, it worked. In the case of this, I don't know if it's I don't even know if possible, probable, I guess, to do anything about it. What are you going to do? When a company as big as Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo or anybody, I shouldn't throw Nintendo under the bus. They're probably the best examples of a company who tries to do whatever they can before anyone gets laid off. We have documented examples of that. But in Sony and Microsoft's case and other big publishers' cases, I don't think whatever we say, think, or do on social media is gonna move the needle. These layoffs and these shutters, these studio shutterings were going to happen, and I don't think the freak out is going to change that. Whereas I was very optimistic that Sony was going to have to rethink their position on requiring a PSN account for Helldivers 2. I was pretty sure that they were going to do that. As you heard in the last core, I think I said something about eating a hat if it didn't happen the way I thought it would. And it did look like they were kind of doubling down there for a bit, but they backed off. And that felt like, yeah, that's the kind of thing consumer outrage can curb. Where consumer outrage doesn't work as much, I think, is when we say, "Oh, how can you shut down Arcane Austin?" They know why. Their numbers suck, and they don't get out of that dev what they want. Now, in the Hi-Fi Rush case, I really don't understand it, but again, it's the kind of decision that me freaking out on the internet is going to have zero impact on or effect on. Sorry, there's a little kid here laughing. He's playing with Transformers in there, as it should be. Anyway. So this isn't going to get reversed. We're not going to be able to enjoy that feeling twice in the same week, I'm afraid. However, I do think this couldn't be worse of a PR move for Microsoft. And I know companies can't make every move based on PR. I understand that. Again, the structure of the capitalist sort of maximize profits sort of model that we have, it doesn't really work with empathy. It's about the bottom line and about shareholders and how happy they are with their investment. That's really it. Hi, Van. And so I just don't think that has any impact on it. But I do think Microsoft has painted a nasty little PR picture here that I don't think is good for them. It goes kind of counter to everything Phil Spencer says out loud. I know that, he and the company paint him as a relatable gamer dude, games first. People check his Xbox profile all the time, and it shows he's playing hours of certain video games. And, it just seems like he's a gamer who's also an executive we can relate to or whatever. I still think that's probably true at a fundamental level, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think Phil Spencer is faking that affable, approachable, gamers first, developers first sort of thing. I think he probably really does feel that way. I have no reason not to believe that, but I don't think Microsoft, the larger machine, I don't think they care about that. If it's a side effect of the success, then they probably don't care about that, but this is not a priority for them. And so he's going to look real bad. He's said stuff on socials and on video and otherwise to say like how pleased they were with Hi-Fi Rush's success, that was exactly why they got involved with a dev like that in the first place, wanted to make sure they always had freedom to make big decisions, creative decisions without the interference of the corporate side of things. And what this tells me is that the company is not in sync with his desire to do those things. For all I know, that kind of talk is him messaging the company more than he is messaging us. And, the Satya Nadella Microsoft machine does not care. But to do this right before one of their events, I don't know. I just think they are digging a hole that is bad. They were already kind of teetering on the publicity problem prior to this. They did the layoffs, with Activision and stuff. I think some of us are okay with it because we kind of know, well, of course you're going to restructure and it makes sense. And some of those people during the transition are going to be, for whatever reason, that one seemed like, okay, of course they're doing that. They got to trim fat now that they have it, whatever they deem to be fat. But for whatever reason, this one hit harder. And also it's just at the end of a long list of these that have been going on for years now. The entire industry's having a bit of a reset, not reset, but not a recession either. It's more like just a pulling back. And they're not the only ones, but boy, it's easy to make yourselves look like the only ones when you are one of the biggest names in gaming and you pull one of these things and now everybody's pissed. Sony's probably relieved. They're like, oh, they're finally done talking about us and our stupid Helldivers thing. Microsoft had a window there of relative impunity. I mean, at least nobody was thinking about that. Now suddenly they're all back in the spotlight. Maybe you can't avoid it. Again, it's the business of it, and the business runs without public opinion. for the most part. So I guess what I'm saying in the end here is I hope I hope they're serious about when they say, well, we had to make tough decisions to get us in a better place. I hope that isn't just a greed position of, well, we were profitable, but we want to be $8.5 million more profitable. And we can do that by, I don't want it to just be people are getting let go because, or studios are being shut down because we have to fudge the numbers. I guess no matter what that is, what you're doing, no matter what, right? Because they were profitable last year. They did great. But is that profitable enough for your next quarter's forecast? And that's where I hate this stuff. It's where it freaking gets stupid to me. Here's the good news. Steam and Valve seem to be doing quite well facilitating people's need to get video games on Steam and on their Steam Decks. Nintendo, same thing. They do whatever they do to make Nintendo fans happy, and it's very exclusive, and everyone's pretty happy there. I think one space that is thriving in all of this is probably independent development, and I'd love to see, some numbers on that. I don't really know this, but I get the sense that side of things is as crowded as it is. At least it's like independent. They're not beholden to a lot of this. They don't have big publishers and big platform runners breathing down their necks necessarily. It's clear to me that Arrowhead, during this mess with Helldivers, clearly were like, ugh, wish we were on our own. Why are we in this wagon? And I get the feeling that Bungie felt that way for a long time with Microsoft. And now they're a Sony studio, and I don't know how that's gone for them after Sony bought Bungie. I guess what I'm saying is it's the good thing is we're seeing a lot of smaller games with pretty great ideas thrive in a market where corporate dominance is a problem. So anyway, wanted to pipe in and say that. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. And we'll be back this Thursday with a brand new episode of the full episode of Core. Oh my gosh, buddy, what is that you shot? He's got darts. What is that? What? Oh, it's a bowl. There's a lot of chaos in here right now. Anyway, we'll see you on Thursday night. Yeah, 5 p.m. Thursday, Mountain Time. Be there. And I'm sure we'll have more to say about this Microsoft stuff. But it feels good to vent early. All right? All right.